that this bridge lacks is emergency lanes. It has no shoulders. So that astounding accident rate is kind of understandable when you think that even when somebody runs out of gas on the bridge, it can cause major delays and disruption and queuing. So those are the fundamental reasons, not to mention the fact that there are seismic issues that we need to address. This bridge was not built to deal with seismic issues. That wasn't a big concern, or we didn't maybe think as much as we should about that until last summer when we felt some rumblings here in New York State from the earthquake in Virginia. So all of these things are important reasons why we need to build a new bridge now. I mentioned the 10 years of deliberation about this project, and over that time frame, there were more than 430 meetings, and I know that many in this room, or certainly the League of Women Voters, participated as a stakeholder in a lot of those sessions over the years. 150 different design alternatives were explored, ranging, in most instances, looking at a 30-mile corridor concept, from tunnels to, all different sorts of configurations. All in, about $88 million was expended to explore those options. And the problem was, there was no specific goal in mind. There was no leadership. There was nobody putting a stake in the ground saying, this is what we need to do, and this is how we can present a path forward. In comes Governor-elect Andrew Cuomo. So even before he took office, he got on a barge from underneath the bridge over there, and he toured the structure. And he went around it, and he got on it, and he sat with the folks from the Thruway Authority and the DOT and the MTA, and started to develop an understanding for the challenges and some of the statistics and issues that I just mentioned, but also putting it in the context of the critical transportation corridor that the Tappan Zee is the link for. Not just between Rockland and Westchester counties, but really for all of New York State and all of the northeastern United States. So he immediately, even before taking the oath of office, said this has to be a high priority. It's a vital, critical infrastructure link, and it needs to be addressed. But it needs to be addressed in a way that's realistic. We need to set a scope for this project that's affordable and that we can move forward with now. The time for all these studies and deliberation has really come to a conclusion, and we need to move forward. And he set out some pretty clear objectives, really a vision for how we could move forward with the bridge. One is that we needed to do it on an accelerated schedule. We needed to ensure that we would not preclude transit options for the future. And that means we need to maximize the public investment that we're making today so that in the future, at some time when transit options for that 30-mile corridor become more affordable or more realistic, the structure itself, the link between the key counties that would use mass transit would already be in place. So those kinds of provisions are already in the process of being explored, and in fact they're required from the proposing teams that will be bringing us innovative world-class designs to consider at the end of July. Another one of the governor's objectives in the context of accelerating the project is pursuing design-build legislation. Now again, this is another milestone that's associated with this project because for nearly 30 years in New York State, we had tried to get design-build legislation, which is a new way of delivering projects that helps you expedite projects, that helps shift risk away from the public owners and therefore insulate the public owner and the toll payers and the taxpayers for some of the risk of cost overruns and time delays and those sorts of things. So he went to the legislature and he worked with the legislature, and so we need to pass this legislation, and was successful, and that's enabled us, working in tandem with an accelerated environmental review process, to move this project at a very, very fast pace. Just a word on the accelerated environmental review process, because it's another key in getting us to where we're at today and where we're going in the future. The governor worked with President Obama to identify this Tappan Zee Bridge as one of the president's 14 priority infrastructure projects in the United States. Of those 14 projects, there's only 3 that are highway bridge projects, and of course the Tappan Zee is far and away the largest of all of those. So I heard, having spent some time in the federal government myself, I heard some skepticism surrounding that announcement. Well, you know, it's nice, and the president made a nice press release, but what does this really mean? And I can tell you firsthand that the partnership that we have seen with the federal government since October, when this project pivoted, has been extraordinary. You know, it's a situation where there are 14 different federal resource agencies. The Fish and Wildlife, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Coast Guard, Fish and Wildlife, on and on and on. Every week, the White House requires somebody at the deputy secretary level of all those agencies to come together, compare notes, and say, what's going on with Tappan Zee this week? Are there any problems on the horizon that we can solve today? Rather than putting up obstacles or trying to delay permitting processes or making things, you know, unnecessarily complicated, we have a full partnership with the federal government. We are partnering with the New York State DOT, who's really still in the lead on the environmental process, while the Thruway Authority, as the owner, is moving the procurement process forward. So there's a lot of good partnership going on, and all this is coming out of the governor's vision to build an affordable bridge on an expedited schedule, and to do it now. The final thing that the governor articulated in his vision was that whatever form this structure takes, it has to last 100 years. It has to be built and designed with the latest technologies and materials and capabilities and traffic management aspects, so that we can get 100 years down the road before there's any major capital investments or major maintenance that's necessary. And that's very, very significant. That's pushing the envelope, but other countries are doing it. There are other places in the United States that have made this kind of pronouncement, and we are very confident that with the 4 world-class design teams that are going to be proposing on this project, that have done projects all over the globe, that we're going to have some really innovative designs that will address all those capacity issues and safety issues, but give us a bridge in a quick time frame, really, that we can all be proud of. Let me just conclude by saying, because of some of those circumstances that I mentioned, I'm watching Janet and she's wiggling the red stop sign. So, oh, you're not? Okay. I thought you were signaling. Well, then we'll go on and on. This is really a unique window in time that we have right now. All of the forces that have been maybe in different places over the last 10 years and exploring different aspects or iterations of this project are now pulling mostly in the same direction. And while we're moving fast, we are still doing everything that we can to ensure that all of the environmental protections necessary are in place. In fact, we're going above and beyond the things that are required for us to do, because we want to ensure that not just the fish and wildlife habitats that are impacted by the work that's going on out there today, or the work that will be going on for the next 5 years, but the impacts on the communities. We want this to be the most transparent, interactive infrastructure project that's ever been done in New York State. And of course, in any situation when you're moving this quickly, and you're moving simultaneously on a lot of these different processes rather than sequentially like we're accustomed to, you know, there's going to be cause for criticism, and there's going to be concerns about are they doing it right, or are they listening to everybody's concerns, or all of the needs of the communities and the environment and all aspects of this project, is everything being addressed appropriately? And so that's why, one of the reasons why we're here to talk with you and meet with you today. We want your honest feedback. We want to hear your concerns and share your input on how we can improve the project, how we can improve the process of public interaction, because it's something that we're committed to as the public owner and as the team that's working on this from the government side. But it's also something that we have required in the proposal documents that these 4 teams are competing for. Whoever wins the ability to build this new structure will have some very stringent public interaction requirements and community involvement requirements that won't end the day that the Thruway Authority hands a contract over to a private entity. That process will go on throughout the entire construction of the bridge for the next, could be 5 years. So I guess the last thing I would mention, we're doing, as you've seen out in the river, some work is underway now already. This is work that the State Thruway Authority and the DOT are financing jointly. And it's another part of this accelerated process. We wanted to provide as much information as we possibly could to these 4 design and construction teams so that they could take the guesswork out of what's underneath the river, or how far down the bedrock is, or, all of the different soil sampling that's going on, and pile driving that's pretty noisy. All of these things, the data that's being collected is being given to those teams in real time so that they can have a better and more refined proposal to give us that ultimately, as the public owner, will save us money. It will save from those teams putting in enormous contingencies on the back end of a project because they're not quite sure what they're going to encounter when they get into a construction process. So it's exciting to be a part of this. It's exciting to have a governor that's provided the leadership and a clear direction for how to get moving forward. And it's exciting to be involved with a community that ultimately is very supportive of the project as well. Thank you all very much for having me, and Janet told me to be quiet.